Celtic need a big physical midfielder as well. Paul also says, Paul Birrell this time, Celtic need a new left winger. I totally agree with you in the terms that I think a big signing will be late. I think it kind of has to be late in the window, but there's still quite a lot of work for Celtic to do, I would say.
Well, quite a lot of work. I mean, you consider what last season looked like for Celtic.
Aye, okay.
Right? Will Brendan Rodgers have to make drastic surgery to that starting 11? No.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
But you need a new left back.
You do.
Need a new, at least one winger.
Yes.
A striker.
Yeah.
Potentially a centre half.
That would be, I think,
Aye.
Brendan Rodgers' complete shopping list right there.
Aye.
Left back to cover for Tierney. A left side the centre half, one of the same kind of similar stature as Cameron Carter-Vickers. Certainly at least one winger. I think one winger could just about do, because I think Maida goes back to the left, and I think, yes, a striker, oven ready.
Maybe even Inamura could be the backup left back. You never know.
Well, he could be, because he certainly did enough to impress Brendan Rodgers in his first 45 minutes at Cork. I think, as Ryan says, though, Celtic are now going up through the gears in terms of their pre-season preparations, and it'll be interesting to see can he match that? Can he go with the pace that the rest of the squad will set? And if he can, then he'll play his way into it as a real prospect for playing that position. He certainly didn't look uncomfortable playing at left back, but there are much bigger and stronger, harder tests to come from in a Celtic shirt if he's going to prove to Brendan Rodgers that Brendan Rodgers doesn't need to look elsewhere.
John points out the Celtic need a Wanyama type signing to boss the midfield. It's not that they grow in trees, unfortunately, but would you go along with that as well, Ryan? You still need probably 4 or 5 signings?
Well, just to go over what you said, definitely a left back, although I would like to see Mitchell Frame given a chance as a deputy to Kieran Tierney, but the problem is the left back slot I think is going to be a job share this season. I think whoever comes in could end up playing just as much as Kieran Tierney, because they're going to have to manage his fitness due to his obvious injury record. So you can definitely get a left back. I think 2 wingers are required, one on the left, one on the right, definitely a striker. And it will be interesting to see where Ben Nygren plays as well. I know he can play out right, but he doesn't have that speed or that kind of electric pace. So I've heard from journalists in Sweden and fans in Sweden that his best position is actually as a right-sided central midfielder. So he could be that kind of creative force that Celtic have been lacking. We saw it in the Scottish Cup final with Rio Hatate missing. I think they were badly missing a player of that. A man that can score from midfield. And I think they've missed that since Mattarelli and Tom Blodgett have left. So he could be that man. But in terms of Wanyama figure in midfield, I think Celtic have been crying out for that since he left, more or less, especially at European level. I think they're too weak when they come up against the elite, and they could really do a kind of powerhouse in the centre of the park. But as you say, Dan, they don't grow in trees and they cost a lot of money. So but I do think that is something that Celtic have been desperately needing for a while.
Well, where's he going to play?
Centre mid, probably. Move McGregor.
What do you do, Cal McGregor?
Just drop him.
Okay.
But I think in Europe there's definitely a place for a player like that in the middle of the park.
Do you mean next to McGregor, Ryan?
Next to McGregor, McGregor would be definitely the first man on the team sheet. And I get that McGregor tends to drop in between the kind of centre halves and is the holding man. He keeps Celtic ticking. But in Europe, I just don't think he's got the physicality to compete against some of the kind of, as I say, the bulldozers that he comes up against. And that's not still against McGregor. He's top quality. But
I thought that was the whole point of Arne Engels, that he was meant to add that bit of physicality into Celtic's midfield. That's why he played. He was one of the first names in the team sheet in the Champions League, Arne Engels, even if he wasn't necessarily domestically. He's meant to add that little touch of physicality, and I'm struggling to think how you put a sort of a minder in there next to Cal McGregor without kind of really disturbing the shape of the team that Brendan Rodgers likes. I think there's more chance that what you saw last season, I thought, when Celtic, after the Borussia Dortmund game, I think there was a more of a return to the inverted fullback, especially Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor went in and sat in beside Callum McGregor to add that extra double layer of protection.
He was really good at that.
Yeah. And you tell me Kieran Tierney can't do that? I bet you he can.
Aye.
People keep saying that Kieran Tierney can't play inverted because that would seem to be the legacy of why it didn't work for him at Arsenal. I don't believe it for a second. I've seen Kieran Tierney play a variety of different positions, And do you know what? He's a natural because he's one of these talented football players. I think you could just about play him anywhere on the pitch. Can Kieran Tierney play in an inverted left back role for Celtic in Europe? I've absolutely no doubt about it.
No doubt.
I think you raise it. I think you raise a
Ryan.
brilliant. I think you raise a brilliant point, and it's something I've been thinking about as well. Greg Taylor was a specialist in that inverted role. He really was. There's not many players. It's not an easy position to play, and there's not many players in modern football that I think can do it as well as him, at least domestically. So it'll be interesting to see whether I think Kieran Tierney is best bombing forward, overlapping and whipping balls into the box. But Alistair Johnson's a similar type of fullback as well. So it'll be interesting to see who actually plays that inverted role. If it will be Kieran Tierney or Alistair Johnson.
I think again though, Ryan, it's more of a Champions League specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Kieran Tierney domestically, we'll need to see what condition he's in and how many games he can play. But I think, and your kind of bread and butter games in the Premiership, you would expect Kieran Tierney to do exactly that, and Alistair Johnson on the other side to give that balance. But I just noticed a tweak to the system, especially after that Dortmund game, where Greg Taylor did shift inside to shorten the space in between people, to make sure that Cal McGregor wasn't exposed the way he was in Dortmund that night. And I can see Kieran Tierney doing that, without breaking much sweat.
Thomas in the comments points out that KT is the signing of the summer. And I had it up a minute ago. William says that his injuries have been over-exaggerated. The last 12 months, they haven't been that bad. Also, people chiming in talking about Engels, saying Engels was a waste of money. Engels is a poor man's Matt O'Reilly. What does this one say? Engels has no physicality. Any good team always has a ball winner, i.e. Brown, Lennon, Wanyama. I said this in the show the other night. I think this forthcoming season is going to be a big one for Engels. I think he's going to come of age, and I actually think it's been overstated how poor he was last season.
I think it was poor. We've said that.
Aye.
It wasn't poor, but there's plenty of room for improvement. If he has another season on a similar level to his first season, then you would maybe start to reach the conclusion at the end of season 2, this isn't working out. You're looking at Arne Engels saying you need to go to a different level in the coming season. You've had time to bed in, you found your feet, you've got used to the culture, the environment, your team, Scottish football in general. But now is the time to have a growth spurt